We got everybody. This is exciting. A players right here. I can't even tell you, like, I live and die by my dashboards now. I didn't even know how important it was while we were developing them until they're done now. And it is like, wow, game changer, game changer. I think we should just get going. By the third one, you're going to be so bored because it's so easy. You're like, oh my God, I don't know why I didn't get it. So because these are your drawings, everybody, I'm gonna need you to like help me. I'm not, I didn't study these things all night. I'm literally opening them for the first time just to show you how simple it can be. I didn't want to have it planned, and I didn't want to, like if we bump into something head on, I want to solve it with you guys, and then we'll move on, as opposed to, me having the answer and just being confusing. But I think the number one thing to understand, and the goal of all of this, is we just want to make sure that when the project is done, all of the points are accounted for. That's it. That's mission number one. Now, mission number two is we want to post, at a minimum, we want to post daily. So you could just take all of the points for a humongous job and say it's like $100,000, and you could literally just post zeros every day until the end of the month, and then post your $100,000. Yearly, that will give you the data you want, but we want it preferably daily. So now all we want to do is break down that project into such a way that we can post daily. And that facilitates the first goal, which is all the points are accounted for when the job is done. So with those two kind of bookends on a set of prints, this thing becomes wildly easy. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're just going to start going through Adam's drawings here.
So it's a simple L-shaped laundry room. These are framed cabinets that we pre-ordered in pieces, and we from Conestoga, and we assembled them. They came pre-finished for this particular job, and we assembled them in our shop and then delivered them, basically.
Is that the whole thing?
Yep, for this one room.
Perfect. What is that one room worth?
Right. Sure.
We're just going to say that out of that 6,400, 2,560 is material.
Yep.
Okay. And then,
great.
So we have 3,840 throughput dollars to work with. Now, you will have to decide. In this case, we're just talking about custom stuff here. We're not talking about like pieces. We're talking about custom stuff. So all conversations can be surrounding a point system. So we want to say what is 1 point worth? And only because we've set this up 5,000 times, we're just going to give you the answer, start, and modify as you see fit as time goes on. But start at $500 a point for a custom shop. That is like a good number. So
I think we're at now 100 for our shop.
Pardon?
I think we started at 100 for our shop.
Okay, you might be keeping track of a lot of. I mean, basically, just think about like pushing that production timer button. If you made it you made $1 1 point, you'd be pushing it 4,000 times a day.
Sure, I understand.
So whatever it is. So for this, let's just say for today, we're going to go through everyone's drawings at $500 a point. Okay. So then you just take your 3,840 and divide it by 500. And now you have 7.68 points to disseminate through this cabinet job. And, you can, again, we're not filing taxes.
One point
up, round down. Pardon?
1 point a cabinet, and then one for, the remainder for the closet rod. I mean, call it.
There you go. So you could totally do that. You know, I might make this 8 and just divide it equally. I don't know, like, but you're right. That 0.68 could be the closet rod. Now you have 7 points. Just look at those cabinets. You know, you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Geez, works out pretty good.
Here's why his gas gauge. I haven't even looked at it.
So then
They left it.
your estimator,
So there's his keys.
Hey,
I'm trying to write on my screen and it's not working. Huh, not at all. I don't know how to do that. But so now when you're estimating this job or releasing the job to the shop, you have your job kit, you would just literally write right on here, or whichever print your guys are looking at. Like if they're looking at this one, you know, you could just write 1 point, 1 point, 1 point, use a green marker or something different so it stands out. And then every time one of these things gets wrapped and strapped and crosses the finish line ready for assembly, they have a piece of paper on their desk and they write 1 point. And then at the end of the day, they add them all up and you go to your daily operation screen and you write, how many points did we make today? And you put in that number. And then all of the charts populate automatically. Does that make sense?
We've actually went a step further, and we've made a quality control sticker that we put on the back of each cabinet, and so we put the points on that for each cabinet. And then you put the sticker on and quality control it, and then you know how many points that cabinet's worth.
Brilliant, brilliant. So every job kit comes with a certain number of stickers that says, my name's Chris, I quality controlled this.
Odd item, yeah.
Same. We didn't even think of that, Lynn. We got to add that. Smart.
So I just want to bring, yeah, that is awesome.
So does this one make sense for everybody? And feel free, turn on your mics, do whatever, like jump in as soon as it doesn't make sense.
That's too easy.
We keep telling everybody, but nobody listens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, and then you could give that closet rod a point, 1.6 points or something. Yeah, done. Next, right there. Okay, so we have an island that looks like 2 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cabinets, and it looks like that when it's done. How much is that island worth?
I don't know, 10,000. I don't remember. Brian could tell you more exactly, but
7,200.
Yeah, that comes out nicer to 8 cabinets. Yeah,
that's throughput dollars divided by 500. You have 14.4 throughput dollars to do this. Anybody have any ideas how much a cabinet should be worth?
14 divided by 8. Is that what you're saying?
You got it.
Brian?
1.8 points per cabinet. And every time one of them crosses the finish line, they write on their little piece of paper 1.8, 1.8, 1.8. And at the end of the day, they hand that piece of paper into the office and somebody goes to the daily operations screen, adds up those numbers and puts it in the daily operations. This is like, so far, this is like grade 1 stuff. This is easy peasy. Here's something. Let me flip this around. That's not so totally cut and dry. What's this one worth?
That one is 11.2, but and then you take out materials, yeah, probably around the same price.
$6,720.
Yeah.
Great.
Just for the record, I guessed that based on the point system we already talked about.
There you go.
Just while you guys were asking about the details, I already just looked at it and I said that's about 6 points. That's how easy it is.
Yeah,
now it's not going to be exact based on because you're estimating. I get it, but it ends up being your standard throughput $5, $750 or $1,000 for an upper or lower cabinet, and everything else is, oh, that's a 5-point hood, that's a 3-point cabinet.
Once you do it 50 times, you're not even going to think about it anymore. You're just going to go 6,720 divided by 500, 13. So I have 13.44 points to dish out here. And then you just start counting things, right? So look at the boxes: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 boxes, plus those big things. You know, they're probably worth 2 each. So you have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you got 1.3 points per thing. The big ones are worth 2.6. So you write 2.6 on the drawings over the big cabinets, and you write 1.3 over the little cabinets. And every time one crosses a finish line, that's the number they write down. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It's
Totally.
very close. They've installed this job, and it's very close to what we ended up with. Like, we had $100 a point, and so we had 14 points. So, you know,
Yeah,
very close.
and you know,
Close
you
enough.
can, as you work with it, you will get pulled in the direction of how accurate do I need to be. You know, so we're gonna suggest just start and be sloppy. And then when you're like, wow, you know, I don't know about that. Maybe we should count the decimals, and let's just attribute the decimals to the hardware or something. And you'll get that decimal point in there if you need it. But, you know, like at the end of the day, if they're writing it on a piece of paper, it really doesn't matter if it's 1 point or 1.3 points or 1.8 points. The math is easy. So you'll still, by the time this job is totally complete, you'll still have accounted for all of those points.
Brad, if I may say something, after seeing Joe's shop, it all makes sense because it's all about throughput, and it's all about how much can you get through in a certain time. And I would say Joe's at the point where he doesn't even count micro anymore. He's counting macro, you know, how many jobs get done in a day, not cabinets almost, you know.
I want that celebration as many times a day as possible.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
You know, like I could count when a door order leaves, but I count every door because I want that. Yeah, you know. And then what you start getting is when you start incorporating this with the production timer at the end of your line, you start finding out how long exactly does it take you to make $500. This intel is so good, everybody. When you go back through to your estimating and you start looking at numbers and you're like, but wait a minute, it takes us 27.6 minutes to make $500. Oh, that sounds pretty good. Or, hey, it takes 9 hours to make $500. Oh, that doesn't sound very good. Like, none of these numbers do work for you, but they sure present it to you in a way that you can start to piece things together. Like you'll notice patterns. Oh, look at that.
I would say that it's important for me to know every hour how I'm doing from a throughput perspective, because if I'm not getting the throughput I want at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have at least a half a day to sort things out and recover. I'm on the problem. I know what's happening. Now I can say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to shut that bottleneck down for lunches and breaks. I'm going to have someone staff it. People take breaks, but I'm going to keep it running. I lost an hour. I just recovered an hour. You have the ability to recover when you can see something going off the rails. But if you don't see it going off the rails, it's just like not measuring at this level and waiting for your month-end statements to come out and find out that March was a terrible month. We want to get it down to daily and then hourly, so that we can jump in and fix the problem.
So with the timer, how you do that with the example 1.5 points? You have to round off the number.
Correct. If you're going to use the timer, then just round up or down. Round down, then you're safer.
Yeah. I like to make your lowest common denominator a point. And then, I mean, typically it works out to be 1 point for a lower cabinet, 3 or 5 points for a hood. Like, how often are you hitting it for a hood? Most of the time it's 1 for a cabinet.
Like our math ended up working that we had like points for cabinets and points for drawer boxes. So by the time like a 3 drawer bank would be like a 4-point unit based on our math and how our burn rate works. That's kind of how it worked. And we kind of approached it from the other side where a total elevation and then our custom items ended up summing total the balance. So your cabinets, so when you push a cabinet through, for us, it actually looks like pretty much plus minus 1 point all the time. So when they push a cabinet through, you're summing total a point per cabinet, basically.
We were just talking here about putting the points on our cabinet manifest, our shipping document. Because the guys have to check off that they have each cabinet complete, right? So if I list the point in our manifest, so I just got a really bad video of this, but I got each cabinet gets checked off. If I add the point box right on there, my guys don't need to think.
Exactly.
The guys in the office need to think, but the guys in the shop don't need to think.
Remember, like a minute in engineering is 10 minutes on the shop floor. So for us to make a change and to tell an engineer, hey, sorry, yeah, you got to spend 3 more minutes on these drawings, it's going to save 30 minutes on the shop floor of someone trying to figure that out. So Adam with those stickers, Nick with that shipping manifest, those are perfect places to put this stuff where it's easy for them to see, easy for them to grab, easy for you to generate. Totally on board with all of those solutions. Those are great.
For me, sometimes it's a lot of small piece. So how I do that.
You just need to lower your points to your production. If they're small custom things and they're all worth only $100 each, then you have to make a point $100. Maybe you have to make a point $50. It doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, you're just gonna add them all up for the daily production anyway.
That's what we did. Ours is plus minus, like we just divided by 100. So we took throughput dollars divided by 100, and it seemed to be a kind of a more standard, like it was an easier thing for the guys to count. But again, you're right. How you get there kind of is relevant to each person. So we're all going to be a little bit different, but
yeah. And the smaller the smaller the point value, the more accurate it allows you to be, right? You don't have to guess so much. But what we're saying is just get pulled in that direction. Just start at $500, but even $100, that's good. Like, what does it matter if your guys are writing 13 or if they're writing 162? It doesn't matter as long as you know what a point is worth.
But also, we're only counting when something's done, right? We're not counting components going into a unit. We're counting a unit when it's done. So, Mehdi, are you saying you're processing small pieces that are considered units?
Yeah.
Well, like,
so I what we did, it's already $100, but sometimes I have small piece, maybe $50, and other time it's 1,000. So I try to manage how I will use the timer.
Are these accessories for the vans?
Yeah, like molding or things like that.
Okay, so that's what I was referring to earlier. Like in a kitchen, or a house, when you're doing molding, you're sending up batches of molding through, and we're counting it as, a point for a batch of molding or a half a point for a batch of molding. But in your case, I think you're talking about very small accessory pieces. So I think that you're struggling with it because his accessories are for a van, not a house. And in a house, you're putting through bigger batches of molding for the house. In a van, it's just a bunch of tiny little pieces, right?
Yeah, I just kind of want to see what they are. I think, my gut is telling me you have to go to the cheapest product that you make and make your point. That's 1 point. You can't go less than 1 point. So the cheapest product you make, if it's $50, that's 1 point. So 1 point equals $50 for you. And if you make something worth $100,000, you just got to write a really big number at the end of the day.
If this is 1 or 2 pieces, and you have and most of your product maybe is the cabinets, I like to pick the lowest common denominator within reason, right? And within a custom kitchen, it's usually the upper or lower straight up cabinet.
Yeah, there's weird stuff here. So what's this one worth?
That's probably about 11,700.
$7,000. So now we're $500 a point. I don't even know if I have to write this one down because it's the exact same as this last one we just did.
Right.
7,200. So you got about 14 points to dish out here.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would just essentially look at the complexity of each one and hand them out accordingly.
Right.
Right. Like, it's hard for me to tell what's harder to build here. I mean, those back shelves look pretty more in depth, because all we're trying to do with the points is not have our people go crazy. So
Mhm.
you could just say, well, this is 14 points and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements, 14 divided by 6. Each element is 2 point whatever points. But then your people are going to be like, Bob, I don't get it. The easy cabinet's 2 points and the hard cabinet's 2 points. So for us at a higher level, we're trying to weight the more complicated things with a few more points and the easier things with a few less points. But at the end of the day, when the job is done, the job is done.
With a standard custom kitchen, we're just saying assign the points to the custom stuff like the hood and the pocket door cabinet, and then divide everything else amongst the uppers and lowers, whatever's left. What makes it even easier.
That's totally one way to do it. The other
Hey,
way
Brad.
is to have a standard
Oh,
cabinet point
This isn't working.
that you assign to your cabinets usually, and then whatever's left over, divide it between the custom stuff. Yeah, let's just look at this one, because that's, I mean, you got it right here. There you go, everybody. Look at this. We should have just called Tony. Tony, 16 cabinets, each worth blah, blah, blah. There you go. $4,800 to use on end panels.
But Tony, you could have put 1 point on each of those 16 cabinets, correct?
But if
But the only problem with this, like scroll down for a sec, like look at the cabinet numbers. Like this is what I've already got this feedback right there. Stop right there. So like looking at number 7 and number 1, number 7 is going to take you 3 or 4 times longer than number 1.
correct.
So that's where my guys have come back and said, hey, listen, why are you weighting that 3 drawer bank the same as a standard upper? Because I can throw a standard upper with 2 doors through way faster than I could build 3 drawers and a case, because you're building that box 4 times, really. In my case, I weight my, like that 3 drawer bank would be like 3 to 4 times more than what my standard one. So I weight it in points from a simple box and then basically scale up points from there. So like that 3 drawer bank for me would be a 4-point unit based on 100 throughput dollars plus minus.
Right. I'm a big fan of simple. And as long as all the points are calculated by the time the job gets done, that's the only number that matters. The rest of it is just, making people feel good along the way and giving you an idea that the work is moving along the way. Get pulled in that direction. Sam obviously got pulled in that direction. You could make each point $1 and you can make it this thing as accurate as you want it to be. I mean, if each point was $1, just use dollars.
So,
but we're trying to reach a month, and a month is a lot of working days. And by the end of that month, does it really matter if I charged the same for that drawer bank as I did for an upper cabinet by the end of the month?
No, doesn't matter at all. Now, it matters if you charge the same, but as far as points go, it doesn't matter.
No, but to answer your question, yeah, because you're tracking your throughput, in this case, the throughput total on points. So you're not getting an accurate figure when you're using the same point value for all different cabinet styles. You actually don't know what your throughput on points is. Does it matter on a global scale? No. But like as a performance perspective, if I throw I had a job that had like 18 lower drawer banks that were 4 drawers a piece. Like it took me like probably 2 or 3 days to push that through. Say 2 days to push that through. But if I would have had 18 lower 2-door cabinets, I could have pushed that through in a few hours. So it does kind of matter if you're relating points to throughput. That's what I'm saying. It's got to be relative. But that's like the counting of points is not where I'm struggling. Where I'm struggling is when you have an elevation, Brad. But Bob must have something in there that's like a 3D thing. That
we're gonna find something.
like a
Bob has
multi-day.
all kinds of stuff. Bob, what's a crazy reception desk in here? Yeah.
When it rolls multi-day, right? Like one day into the next, how do you celebrate wins on the individual day?
So
Technically
easy, you can't even imagine it. Are you ready?
I'm ready, Brad.
All right. Let's say this thing's worth $15,000. So that's going to give us 9,000 throughput dollars. And each point is $500. Divide that by 500. You have 18 points. Or in Sam's case, you have, let's just do Sam's. You have 90 points at $100 a point to figure this out. So if this isn't broken into segments, like let's say you had to ship that whole thing as one piece, there was just no possible way to break it down. Am I tracking right here, Sam? Then you go to the guys at the end of the day and you say, how far along are you? And they say, well, we think we're about 20% of the way. Well, then you take your 90 points and you say, that's 18 points. And you post that today. And you write on the board that they said they were 20% of the way through. And then the next day you say, how far along are we? Oh, I think we're halfway now. So now you're at 50% of the way done. And so now you've calculated for 45 points and you're posting this based on nothing other than what they say. And then
Right.
when they get to the nitty gritty, because you know it, this is exactly how this is going to go down. They're going to overestimate for the first 3 jobs. And they're going to say, oh, we're halfway. But when they get about 90%, they're going to be like, oh, 91, 92, 93, 94. So your chart is probably going to like do a little nosedive as the guys are not professional estimators when it comes to time. But when the job is done, all the points will be accounted for, which is what you're after. And then they're going to get smart. And then they're going to weight it lighter in the beginning. Every time you ask, every day, how's it going? How's it going? They're going to say, oh, we're only 10% of the way. We're only 20% of the way. And at the end, they'll have a little bump. But the point is that we're at least getting a guess every day. You're posting something. How far off it's going to be, who really cares? It's never going to be perfect. So just keep going. And there at the end, they might find we've used all 100 points and we're not done yet. Then they got to post zeros for a few days until that job is done.
That's what our problem's been for like the last 8 or 9 months, where like 80% goes really fast and the last 20% always takes forever. But the problem is we haven't actually, but it's not, we haven't been able to figure a way to come out of that. Like, it's like, we're still like, it's such an up and down roller coaster where it's good, and then crash for like 2 or 3 days, and then good, and then a crash. And it just looks like we're ramming the floor in waves.
But isn't that the learning curve though? Aren't they going to be learning through this? And I mean, that's kind of the point, right? They're going to say, if they burned all their points in the first half of this, and now they're going to struggle for the last 2 weeks and it's going to look terrible. Now they're going to get better at estimating it. You either get all the credit at the beginning and then don't get credit for 2 weeks, which is painful. But I think that they'll learn to smooth it out. Do you talk about the points every day at the end of the day?
Yeah, with my main guys every day.
Yeah, you do. Okay. Yeah, because I would think really that the whole goal is just to make sure someone's aware of the progress today or the lack of progress today, and we quantify it with points. If you're aware of their progress every day and you're having those conversations every day, that's a big part of the win, isn't it?
I thought that you couldn't post the points until it was wrapped and strapped and ready to go. But what you're saying in this condition is we're just going to go, how much have you got done today? 20%. But I thought you only post it when they're wrapped and strapped and ready to go.
If your cycle time is less than 1 day, then yes. Time is stretching over weeks. Yeah. It's demoralizing to post it. I worked all day and I posted a 0. Remember, these metrics that we keep saying is only to drive behavior. This is it.
Do you know what else it forces? It shows me, now I know we have these one-off highly complex units in some of your shops. I get that. But if you can't post something every day, what is the number one thing it's telling us? We have a lack of what in our factories?
Flow.
A lack of flow. We have a lack of flow, right? So if you have a spike every 3 or 4 days and then nothing for 3 or 4 days, I would just take a hard look at that and say, why can't we keep product moving and trickling across the assembly line? I understand the really complex, big stuff that all has to be assembled together. I get that. And maybe you move where you count it up a little bit further. Jerry, in this case, for someone like Sam or Bob and stuff like this, where we got guys that dry fit their kitchens entirely and don't count anything until it's all completely dry fit. They're going to have 0, 0, 0, big spike, 0, 0, 0, big. You'll get better once you start using it at that level. Then you say, well, can we do smaller batches? Can we establish flow? But if something's not going through your factory every day, the first thing it tells us is we don't have flow. And therefore, should we look at that and can we do something about that?
That's my question. And it could be another webinar, it could be another time. Maybe I schedule a private call, whatever. I don't know, but that's our issue is flow. We have a job of 26 bookcases for a built-in library. And, you know, they all got cut up at once, which is our problem, that they're not smaller batches. But I don't even have the concept in my head of like, how do I get 4 of them finished in a day so they can be, you know, marked as done?
But if you do the smallest batch size possible, that makes sense to the yield. So say 2 bookcases is your best yield. You want to cut 2, finish 2, and then if there's any mistake on 2, you're only throwing parts in the garbage for 2. You should only run it through 2 or 3 at a time, whatever, to get you full sheet. And we just built the second one. And then we went through it there, and there was improvements on the second one. And then we applied all that improvements on the third one. And don't say, Adam, that we've got this all figured out. No, like literally, this is a brand new thing. Like,
yeah, I understand.
I go to 0. Like we've been doing it almost 20 years, but that's the key. The smallest batch size that you can make it is what you want to build it to, nothing bigger.
When material yields the only focus, it just forces the exact wrong behavior, massive batches, bigger problem. Customer I was at last week, they have now decided to make their new products one at a time when they get an order for 10, because they keep getting an order for 10, building it and finding and starting all over again. All of their profits gone. They're building one, certifying it, and then they're going to release them one at a time, not another batch of 9. They're going to take a hit on material yield, yes, but they're going to have flow in their factory.
What I'm realizing through this conversation, which is this is great, is you have 3 conditions for calculating points. The first condition is cabinets or items that you can count, easily countable items. You assign points and you count the items and you're done. Your second condition is custom stuff, but custom stuff that you can break down with, say, points at $100. So for example, Bob, with this drawing that's on my screen, you know, I might say the little cabinet on either side of that computer is, you know, 5 points each, but the computer cabinet, because it has some special whatever in it, those are 6 points each. And you can still assign points to this thing as it goes through the shop. And so that would be custom that you can assign points to, would be condition 2. Condition 3 is I have to ship the whole thing in one piece. And then in condition 3, we're estimating our progress along the way. And if, Sam, in your case, what you were talking about, that big desk, or Jerry, of 9 days of zeros, but your guys aren't catching on, all you have to do is take the first job and say, how many days worth of zeros did we post? We posted 3 days worth of zeros at the end. All right, it was a 10-day job. We're 30% wrong. How far are you along today? 20%. All right, let's knock 30% off of that 20% guess, and we're only going to post 16 points against it and see how we do tomorrow. The guessing is the Wild West, but when the job is done, all the points are there, your books are accurate again, your dashboard's accurate again. So it's only inaccurate for the length of time that project is in guess mode. So two of those 3 you can be super accurate on. The third one is a bit of the Wild West.
But also, today, you're not finding it out until you get your financial statements. So worst case, once a week, you're getting good feedback, and daily you're learning and getting some feedback. And at some point you're going to fine tune this, and the daily feedback is going to make sense.
So we've got these inputs of points, right? And ideally those are accurate to where the gauges on our metrics allow us to make decisions and things. Is there an argument to be made where, like, okay, if, you know, we overestimated our time on, you know, scenario 3 in the Wild West, and now we have 3 days of zeros, would it be okay to restate those figures at the end of the project to look?
100%.
Does that help?
You could go back through your operation screen and make them all accurate. You could totally do that.
And that's where we kind of started splitting it up by department too. So you can start to see where your departments are struggling in itself. So you can see out of your custom where you're in our custom department, like a desk like this, we can see actually what it's actually processing, because we know our CNC could spit at this desk in no time, but we got to see what is actually processing in each department. So we have our case assembly department, which we have a process rate, and our custom that has a process rate. And it's basically just marrying up the two. So we know in our estimates, we can see and tweak, okay, on our case line, we're estimating high, and on our custom, we're actually estimating low. So you start to take this data, you start to like merge it into your estimates to get like a feedback loop.
I'm really interested in that. Like, how do I turn this into a better feedback loop? Do it more quickly. But I don't have experience doing that, so it hasn't clicked for me yet. Like,
well, what you're going to see is you're going to see your minutes per point, and then you're going to be able to take that information and immediately look at your next estimate and say, how much time on average am I taking per point? And your dashboard will just tell you that. You look at it, it's going to say, you know, minutes per point is going to be 27.8 minutes per point, however much a point is. And then you look at your next estimate and say, well, on average, it's taking me 27 minutes to make $100. This project is worth $100. Do I have 27 minutes estimated in there? Oh, I don't. I only have 10. Well, how could I be so wrong? Oh yeah, we're woodworkers. We suck at this. But now you have the data, the exact data, not like a wild guess. Like, you will know exactly how many minutes it takes to make a point.
And not only that, like you start to see, so now on this, like for us, like you have like the case, like this elevation here would have like our case assembly line, like case department, then it would have a custom department. So I start to see at the end of the day, I get a report out of, okay, well, what came out of my case line, what came out of my custom line, and now I know my total calculation. So if a job has a certain number of points for custom and a certain number for cases, then you start to get a feedback on, okay, well, I need to like modify my time allowances. If anything runs through my custom department, this is my rough throughput measure through the custom line, and this is my rough through the production case line.
So does that answer your question, Drew? Does that make sense?
At an academic level, yes, I need to just get some muscle memory built.
Right. The most important thing that can happen is you just start using it. You just muscle through it. And at the end of the day, if you're like, I don't know what to put in here, text us. That's why we have phones in our pocket. Like, who cares, right? It's a text message. Be like, hey, I'm confused here or whatever. But it's going to be hard to make decisions, at least for the first 4 weeks, because that's what all of our charts are giving you, the rolling 4-week data. But after 4 weeks, you're going to have super accurate data on how many minutes does it take to make X amount of dollars. And then you just compare that to your next estimate. I've estimated $10,000 in labor, but my throughput is telling me I only really do 8. I'm not like allowing enough time in all of my jobs. Like, I wish I had this tool when I was doing millwork. My God, I never allowed enough time for anything.
Can you separate, like, talking finishing departments? I'd love for them to track their own data similar to this so that they can see what they're doing. Well,
it just so happens, Lynn, am I allowed to tell them?
No, you could use a productivity timer and track the points at your like at your bottleneck or your control point or your finishing room, wherever it is. Use a productivity timer, tell you how you're doing and if you're on track, right? Is that your goal? To make sure that they're on track and that they're moving and that, you know,
yeah, I want to make sure they're
targets.
moving, but I want them to see that if they make an improvement, that they've got an improvement too, right? Just get that one rack through the booth.
Okay, but more through the booth means more through the shop, means higher throughput dollars today, right? If we start tracking separately like that, then it's like, hey, my team's doing well, your team sucks over there, and I don't know, those guys are holding us back. So that's why we really don't want people saying, put this in your door department, put this in your finishing department, put this in your final assembly, because now we're all competing against each other and saying he's the problem, but we all work together to get higher throughput every day. That's the goal from building a team.
Yeah, I get that's the goal, but I also want to figure out how to track my finishing department so they know it's not a them versus us. It's just I want them to see they are directly.
So productivity timer.
Okay.
points for the finishing room, hitting the button every time they get a point. That's going to tell them exactly how they're doing, and their target's in there. So their screen's going to go red if they're not doing well. And if their screen's going to be green if they're exceeding their target, and that's going to show them, hey, we're doing better than, than normally doing.
100% on the money. We have the timers at every station in our shop, but we only pay attention to the one at the end of the line. Not pay attention to the one at the end of the line tells us our daily numbers, but we have them at our control point. We have them everywhere for the operators to know how are they on track. Like if my screen's red, obviously I'm going to cause a problem at the control point sooner or later. So we got to get everybody's screens green. Lynn couldn't be more right on the, like, if you start tracking just the department, you want to look at the overall throughput at the end of the day, and you want team, how do we get this to be bigger? Like what happened here a couple of weeks ago, we're like, hey, we need more numbers. Well, the CNC guys, they saw that the problem, they could help in the sanding area. And so you might find that, Nick, the guys in this cabinet assembly have their buffer full before the finishing room. Well, they need to stop working, and maybe they go into the finishing room and sand some primer for a little while or something, but they need to go contribute to that overall number as well. Nobody would go to that area until the screen turns red, and you set that target. So if you have $100 or $500 a point, and you want them to put through, whatever, $5,000 a day, they're going to have to hit that button every hour to be on target, and the screen will tell you whether they need help or not.
Also, if your control point, let's say it's your finishing room, starts outperforming, now they're starting to pull faster, right? So my question is, do you want them to outperform? Because the tack time should be the rate of customer demand, not just because they can go faster, right? So it should be intentional. Should be intentionally their targets higher, and they're making it, but they're also going to put stress on all of the feeding operations, which is fine. But if you're just paying attention to the bottleneck, you can see which feeding operation is struggling and go fix that problem. I urge you all to get this right before you do the next thing, please.
Get the dashboard going right, and let the department see when they make an improvement. It does turn up on the, it's going to turn up fast. Like in a cabinet shop, couple of days, your numbers are going to start changing, and you'll be able to watch that trend. And then in the morning meeting, you're attributing that, hey, the guys in finishing, look, they did this improvement. Look at the number. It's starting to go up. Did everyone find that easier? Oh yeah, that was a great thing. They did half the job and gave it to us, and then they did the other half while we were building. Like we should actually do another webinar just on the production timer.
Next webinar I'm booking is on the quality tool, because it's going live today. At the end of the day, you will have your new quality tool. So I'm going to schedule a webinar in the next couple of days. I'm going to send out the invite for it, and we're going to do a whole webinar on the quality tool, because that's going to be something you're going to need help to set up in the very beginning.
Are we okay on the points? Like I'm looking through the drawings, and I see them, every one of them, and I'm like, that's easy. I just move on. But is there something that we should still work through?
I had one question for you. Especially since you were looking at ours, we had like a whole job. It's like, I don't know, 8 rooms or 5 rooms or whatever.
Yeah.
Are you breaking those down into individual smaller chunk rooms before you point?
I would say each room would be, or each elevation. You just kind of have to look at it and do what works best for you. You could look at the whole job globally and say, hey, a lot of this stuff is really similar. I'm just going to assign a point per cabinet, and then whatever's left over in that room, just give it to something. Put it onto the hood. Put it onto the closet.
Totally get that. It's just the variation between, one room or the next. Or and I had applied like a whole house, like to that project you saw that had the vanity and the laundry room and whatever.
Yeah.
That was all calculated together, but I can break it down and make it smaller. It's just going to, slightly be more accurate for each room, and, just take a little bit more time, but it's no big deal.
Yeah. The number that doesn't change is the points.
Right.
Like literally for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. We have the same points.
even after listening to Sam a little bit, I hate to admit it, but I think that the $100 does allow custom guys to get a little more accurate on the things.
And a good portion of ours is custom too. So I like our 100. The 500 becomes a little too chunky.
Yeah. So, yeah. If you have things worth less than $500, then 500 doesn't work. You have to go to your lowest price thing and make that 1 point,
Right.
and everything's a derivative of that.
Right. We're having a lot of 3-point cabinets and a lot of maybe 30-point special things. Whatever.
Good. Anything else on the points? Is it as clear as day?
Yeah, it's very straightforward.
Well, I would ask the question this way. Is there anybody who think that they can't go forward and start using the dashboard with what they learned about points today?
I feel a lot better about it.
That's good. So the one thing we haven't talked about, what happens when you can't get the material out? Because I remember, Nick, when we talked about this, it was tough to get it out of Mosaic because you had it all built in there and did whatever. So it's super easy. You only have two options. One, you do the work and get the material cost out. Or if it's too much work or impossible, or the material value doesn't change very much from job to job, just go to the settings screen and enter your material percentage. Again, it's not like the best, but the bigger the data pool that you could pull from. So if you took your material cost from last year and just made it a part of your sales and you're like, it was 38.2%, just put 38% in the settings screen, and the system will do the rest of the work for giving you the throughput dollar number.
Provided you put your total sales in the completed by field, then we'll just subtract the material off of it for you. So if you're using material as a percentage, you're entering in your daily total sales across the finish line. If you're not using the material as a percentage, you're entering it in the throughput dollar.
All that stuff.
No, just material. Everything else stays in there.
Yeah, we're trying to get our material costs anyways for every job, because we're trying to track what our total profit is on every job as well, right? So we need to go through that exercise of working on our material costs regardless.
Right. So here everyone still sees my screen, right? Making sure.
Yes.
So here you would put your daily complete in sales, and the throughput will calculate automatically, based on what your material cost is in the settings screen. So in your settings screen, you would go here. So material as a percent of sales, whatever you put in this number, then it will automatically do the math for you here. So if we put $10,000 in here, that'd be a great day. See, it automatically just starts typing 7,800. And that goes for this one too. Your number of people, if I put 5, it automatically calculates the hours. But as long as you put it in the setting screen that you work an average of 8 hours a day or whatever it is. And then I believe this is now programmable, right, Lynn? So ours says doors, but you can go,
whatever you put in your settings screen for unit of measure is what we use everywhere. If you put points, we use points on the graphs. It's right there, ready to build buffer unit. That's
Right.
your unit. You're defining it there. So it's doors, pieces, cabinets, points, whatever it is, that's your full dashboard. We'll use that.
How do I figure out how much dollars, like if you go back to the last one you're at, my sales dollars, I don't really know how I would, like the daily complete. I don't really know.
That will be you would just see the guys sent me their list had 28 points on it, and you know that a point's $100, so you put $2,800 in there.
Okay.
But that would be throughput. You would enter it down here. How many people, how many points, and the rest is done for you. What your estimators
And
tell.
The people is the total number of people in the organization, not shop floor people.
What do you think, Lynn? I'll tell you what I think, and Lynn will tell you what you think, what she thinks, and then you can do what you want. I think it depends what you're trying to measure. So the most accurate way to do it would be everybody in the building, because it does take everybody to make throughput. So the most accurate way would be everybody in the building and that's it. Personally, I only put shop floor staff on there because I want them to see if they make an improvement fast. And so if they make an improvement and it's everybody in the building, the numbers are going to react slower because it's going to be a smaller impact. We just do buffer management. So I just manage the shop and we manage the buffers on either end. Are we shipping it on time and are we building it fast enough? But all shop people, supervisors, team leaders, Gemba people, everybody.
I want to measure the entire organization, so I'm not leaving anybody out. That's hidden factory and shop, because the hidden factory has a direct impact on the shop, their quality, they lots of defects there that can really slow the shop down, lots of interruptions, lots of questions. I want the hidden factory to truly reflect in the shop's productivity that day. I want them tied together so that they realize they're a team. And I'll give you an example. I was just at a new company last week, and their hidden factory is they're starving their shop. So in that case, I made an exception, and I said, let's set up this dashboard just for your hidden factory. We're just going to measure the throughput in your hidden factory until you really get these guys dialed in with a nice big buffer between your hidden factory and your shop. Then we measure the whole company. But I wouldn't normally do it that way. Or I would do it short term where the problem is. Where's the problem? I would focus on that problem, but it's meant to be an overall dashboard.
And I would like to say that for me, I don't have engineers. So there's not a bet, like orders come in through the system automatically out to the router automatically. We don't need to measure that. So actually in the case of a custom shop, yes, I would agree 100% with Lynn, because the impact of improving drawings can be felt in the shop immediately.
So then would I add my hidden factory, but I necessarily wouldn't add my salespeople or my installers?
I want them all in there. I'm not putting the installers in there. I want them all in there because we're tracking the product when it's ready by the end of the day. I mean, you could put your installers there from a labor perspective, but the throughput's getting counted at the end of the day when it's made.
Yeah, I guess that it's really what we're trying to track. Like, if this is a matter to track the throughput of the shop. So everybody that has input towards the throughput of the shop, that would be my engineers, my drafters, but not necessarily my installs, my install managers, my salespeople.
But those people are in the burn rate, right? And so they should be counted for sure, because they're all in there. We're not.
The over the line chart is meant to show you, are you outputting enough on a daily basis to cover all of this overhead that keeps this massive machine going, right? Ideally, everything's in there. You're measuring everybody. And then if you have a reason to go and focus, like Brad said, I don't even have a hidden factory really. It just all goes right through it, right into the shop. Okay. All right. That makes sense. But I'd still have all that labor in your over the line chart. I really would.
The labor is in the over the line chart. So here's where we do start getting a little confused, because I think we're thinking about one chart and we're talking about the inputs of another. So the over the line chart, that the number of people that you put there has no impact on that. The number of people goes into your throughput dollars per labor hour, your minutes per piece, and that's it. That populates those two charts. So the number of people is not affecting your over the line chart. The cost of all of those people are already in your break-even point on the over the line chart. So yeah, I mean, everybody's in there no matter what, because you're taking your whole income statement, taking out the material, and boom, that's your over the line chart. So your installers, your salespeople, your subcontractors, your kids, they're all in there.
And every single graph is just to dial in the focus of what problem do we need to solve, right? And if you don't have flow, you're going to have a bunch of empty bars on your dashboard, and you can say, we don't have flow. How can we create flow? So this is all just to dial in focus, and that's what the quality tool is for as well.
What is kind of the schedule or episodes in this series as you see them?
I think we're going to try and do at least one a month, where we, especially with all the new tools that are coming out, we know we all have jobs to do still, but we don't want you falling behind in all of this stuff because it's so critical. Like every tool that we're building ties into the one before, the one after, ties into your chart. Like this is a complete system now with the quality tool that simply doesn't exist. Like this quality tools, it's so over the top. Like, wait till you see it, guys. You're not even gonna believe it. I mean, imagine having the exact data. Like, so now you have the exact data to tell your estimator how to estimate exactly how much time on average that your shop is producing. The quality tool tells you exactly which is your biggest defect that you should be fixing. Not the one you want to fix, not the one you can fix, the one that you should fix. You got your productivity timers telling you when your shop is on track and off track so you can go fix it. You have your throughput dollars per labor hour telling you if your decisions are going in the right direction or the wrong direction. You have your pieces per day balancing with your tack time. I mean, it's like, it's all there. You just need to use it. And then it's really just a daily kata for everybody else. At the end of the day, you only have 4 pieces of information to enter. And as long as that's happening at the end of the day before you lock the door, then your next day charts are instant.
I'm scheduling a webinar very soon. So I have a tutorial video on there just explaining how to set it up, but I'm going to be scheduling a webinar very soon, and I'll do more than one, talk about how, you know, the different, walking through the setup, because I really want to train people how to use it.
One of my takeaways for everybody is like, I absolutely love all these tools you guys are doing, but in the end, I need to do like it modified, not modified too much, but like if we count $100 versus 500, I think we all need to like be confident enough to use the tools you're using, but not tweaked, but just, you know, dial in for our own shop. Does that make sense?
Totally. And that's what we want. And that's what we're saying to everybody. It's just like, I know even if it doesn't fully make sense, just start using it. Just start putting numbers in there. You'll get pulled in the direction of what you need. Like you'll look at the chart and go, this is useless to me. Why? Because we're calculating points at $1,000 a point. It doesn't make sense. Let's try 500. Oh, that worked better. Oh, let's try 100. Oh, that's our number. You know, you're gonna start using these numbers, and man, I can't even tell you. Like, I live and die by my dashboards now. I didn't even know how important it was while we were developing them until they're done now. And it is like, wow, game changer. Like, I should show you mine. If whoever's still on the call, if you want to see mine, I'll show you. Because it is, the accuracy is stunning. It's phenomenal. It's just like, I had no clue. So yeah, okay. So this is it. So what is going on in Brad's company in April? I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is terrible. We're hurtling towards bankruptcy. And then I go to my throughput dollars per labor hour and I see yearly we're at 87.41, but our 4-week moving average was 101. So this is good. But yesterday was 43. What happened? Like, people just stopped working?
Kyla wasn't there.
Well, go to our minutes per door. Look what's happening here. Yearly, we're 21. Our moving average is 17. This number 2 weeks ago was 13. And that was our target. But now, yesterday, it's 18. So we start going in the wrong direction. Everything is going in the wrong direction. So then I say, well, what happened? Oh, we just ripped apart the shop last Friday and installed a brand new giant robot to assemble all of our doors. And we're working through the pains of a new piece of equipment. And as soon as I see that, all of this starts making sense. And I can go to my minutes per door and I can see, look, I'll give you one guess at which day we installed the machine. Right? Whole shop went to shit in one day. Boom. But look at here. There's the second day. There's the third day. There's the fourth day. Little bump there because we had the tech here working on it, and then back down. Now look at the way this is trending. It's telling me we did the exact right thing. We're cruising along. Look at down here. We had a great 12.55 minutes per door, and then, you know, ramping up to getting that machine, but we got it, and our time is coming back down. I'm comfortable.
That's
I'm
cool.
not panicking. I'm like, oh yeah, I bet you give me 3 more days and this bar is going to be way up here somewhere. And I know it. I can sleep at night because it all makes sense. And I love every bit of it. Like every day I look at this stuff. I'm like, yep, that's about right. That's about right. That's good. Awesome.
Hey,
Can you show us? Can you show us last month by any chance?
while you're pulling that up, this actually
So here, this day and this day, so the 25th and 26th, this is when we shut down the shop. We had 3 days last month where there was no throughput and it was our fault. One, we had no orders. We just built them all. And then 2 more days we were shut down for moving the equipment. And then I was like, you know, I think I'm going to prorate that for the guys because their bonus is obviously affected. Like they only got a $755 bonus last month. And then I thought, no, you know what? This is reality. The reality is if we want to improve and install new equipment, then we are going to pay the price of a little bit of downtime, and we have to pay that price together and agree that it's a good idea. I'm willing to knock down my bonus this month because next month's probably going to be over the top if our decisions collectively were right. So we elected not to prorate the days that were even our fault. It just,
Well, and also everybody's going to be thinking ahead of the next big change. How can we make it easier and better?
right.
Not just, you know, oh yeah, it happened, it sucks, you know, that's a, you know, that whole victim mentality. Now they're going to say, wait a second, how can we get ahead of that and make that smoother? Can you just hover over that? That's the red bell, guys. I just want to make sure everybody understands that all of our enhancements are going in here. So don't ignore that. That tells you exactly what went in that day. Today, there's going to be a whole bunch of enhancements that go in at the end of the day. So please check that out. There's going to be more than just the quality tool that goes in today. So use that red bell there to understand what changes are happening. That's my way of communicating with you because not everybody reads their email or their text messages. So,
All right.
Nice.
awesome. Thank you guys.
okay.
Go for it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Sure.
No problem. Thanks,
Thanks
everyone.
so much, guys.
Well, if you have
Okay.
any questions, we're easy to find, everybody. Don't be shy. I wish people would reach out more instead of struggling, and let's go populate some dashboards and make some money.